Oh, my pleasure, Rebecca. So good morning, everybody. It's Mike Pisani with Alpha Shark, and today I want to talk to you. I want to do an update on the markets, where we're at, and institutional flow, and go over your charts and stuff on that. No, this is not a crypto class. I think that was yesterday, Carrie. This is not that one. All right. So first off, if you're trying to get a hold of me, best ways to get a hold of me: email mike@smartoptiontrading.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at optionsmike. You should follow me. If you follow me, I post a lot of flow and free stuff out there for everybody to see, and I throw charts, especially on Sundays. Most Sundays I do charts. Sometimes I throw my videos out there for you guys for free. So at Options Mike, if you go there, it'll look like this. You'll know what it's me. So you know what I look like. And lastly, you can catch me on YouTube at Options Mike. You'll know when I'm broadcasting live, or I post stuff up on there for you to see there as well. So I hope you guys all join me there. So day trading, our risk disclaimer, right? Day trading, short-term trading, options trading, and futures trading are extremely risky undertakings. They generally are not appropriate for someone with limited capital, little or no trading experience, and or a low tolerance for risk. Never execute a trade unless you can afford to and are prepared to lose your entire investment. All trading operations involve serious risk and you can lose your entire investment. No trades are recommendations or advice and cannot be sued for losses of capital. All trades are for educational purposes only. Contact your broker or RIA for execution, margin, and other capital requirements. Everyone watching this presentation adheres to all disclaimers at alphashark.com and myself, Mike Pisani. Okay, we got that over with. So let's get going here and move forward. So we're going to go over market sentiment, talk a lot about what's happened in the markets, especially this last week. You know, it's funny, a week ago, you guys, not you guys specifically, but people on Twitter were getting really nasty to me, like, this market sucks, this market can't do anything, this market's the worst, you know, there's no sense even paying attention. And boy, how fast have things changed in 1 week, right? How fast has everybody's thinking changed in this market in 1 week? How many people got caught sleeping this week, right? Not paying attention, lulled in by these markets, thinking we're never breaking out, we're stuck here forever, we're never moving forward. Right? Anybody like that? Anybody feel like they got caught sleeping this week, right? Markets kind of caught them off guard. I know a lot of people felt that way. So we're going to go over market sentiment, where we're at, institutional flow. I have some nice little nuggets out there for you guys that we should be taking a look at. And then I have a learning opportunity for you that I'm going to go over with you, and then we'll finish up with your charts. We'll go over charts. We'll go over some of the charts in the market, see where they're at. Hope this sounds good to you guys. You guys ready? Or are you guys still half asleep on me? All right. Hey, thanks, Joe. Somebody's up there. All right, sentiment heating up. So these are some free things, guys, you can do all the time to keep track of sentiment out there and what's going on in the markets and what things look like. Nancy Digby, perfect. So first of all, the CNN Fear and Greed Index. You know, it wasn't long ago this thing was hovering close to zero. A month it was at 17. 6 weeks ago this thing was close to zero. You know, everybody was talking doom and gloom. The market's going to fall apart. And, you know, for people who are in my service and are with me, you know, they all know I've been, you know, just saying play the ranges, play the technicals, you know, don't worry, don't listen to the noise, turn off CNBC, turn off all these fear mongers out there trying to tell you that the world's going to end, and we'll play the action as it comes on, right? So now here we are, we're up at neutral, we're up at plus 55, and you know, we were pinging up around 85, 90 for a while last year as we came into that January area, right, when we got before we got the sell-off. So we're coming back up, and you know, we're heating up very quick. We've had a very, very quick move again up here. Okay, and the one thing you always have to realize when you have a quick move up, you need to realize that markets don't just go straight up. Usually they take a pause. StockTwits sentiment, great stuff on stocks. Use it all the time. Go to the StockTwits, you type in their symbol, and it's going to have a little sentiment indicator on there. So you go in there and you look at it. And so here on the SPY, sentiment's at 46%. You can see sentiment's not that high. It's actually pretty low on the SPY here, which is kind of surprising. So this is telling me that the retail investor, which is us, right, is still kind of not really on board with these markets. And to me, that's a bullish sign for the markets, because if the retail investor is not on board, usually it's a sign that the markets are going to go higher, right? It's when you see these screaming high areas up on these peaks, like on the Qs back here, when you get really high, that we usually are getting into trouble. Sentiment's getting too carried away, right? So the Qs are at 73%. The Qs are always higher, right? People are always much more loaded up on the beta stocks and the tech stocks. And the one that's kind of weird is the IWM has been leading, and they're kind of coming off on that pretty quick, which I kind of find it interesting. And if you're wondering how to do this, this is a real easy trick, so I'm going to teach you this today. Okay. Oops, lost it. Hang on. Sorry about that. So you go to StockTwits. You don't even have to create an account, guys. That's the beauty of this. You do not need an account, and you just type the symbol in. Right? Type SPY, and here it is. Here's your little sentiment report right down here. Isn't that cool? And you can do it for stocks. So even like a name like Apple, you can get a sentiment on this and see if things are getting too big or too heated. So just to StockTwits, you don't even account. You see I'm not logged in here, right? I'm not logged in. I'm not getting in this. This is all free stuff. So this is a nice little way to just track sentiment on stocks and mostly on the indexes. Love to use that. Everybody got that? I keep getting asked about that one. Okay. And thank you, Joe. And you know I love the oscillators. And the oscillators are a measure of how overbought the markets are or oversold the markets are getting. And the faster they're moving up, it means that we're moving really fast. Typically on the NYMOT, which is the New York Stock Exchange oscillator, under 200, we're getting very oversold and should look for a reversal, right? And you can see this line here. You can see when in February we got really extended. By the way, we nailed that February low, right? We knew we were about to get a vicious bounce because everything was in favor of that vicious bounce. And then when we get to, and likewise, plus 200 is also an area where we usually sell off. The weird thing is the markets haven't been giving us those big overbought readings for a while now. Been kind of strange, right? You can see for the last year plus, we've kind of been stuck, this 150, 160 area, okay? And now we're up at 120. So we're getting up into that area again where we could start seeing some pressure. Or we can see what's another thing that could happen here. Instead of selling or pressure, what could they do? Anybody have any ideas? Sideways is okay. I was thinking sideways is good, but also rotation, right? So, rotation. Rotation into different sectors and different names that haven't moved while the indexes and everything cool off. So that's what they can do here, right? Doesn't mean the markets sell off. It means that they cool things off by going sideways and playing with rotation game. And we see that often in this market. And we're going to go over some of that today. The NYMOT is the Nasdaq Oscillator. You can see this is at plus 96. This one tends to get much more overbought than the NYMOT. See how it hits plus 200, and it doesn't tend to get quite as oversold either. So, sentiment's getting up there, but we still have room to run. We can still go higher. It's not screaming, get out of the market, we're going to have a sell-off, but it's saying you need to consider and think of things. So this is the SPY chart, right? So first thing off the top here, we've had a massive trend change here. If you haven't figured it out this week, I get that, Carrie. That comes off of stock charts, and it's free. Just type in that symbol that you saw me put up there. Okay, NYMOT pound. Here, I'll go back for you. NYMOT and NAMOT. When we get to charts, I'll pull them up again. You're welcome. All right, so SPY, we've had a massive trend change. The first thing that happened is that short-term intermediate downtrend back on in here. We broke this last week. We broke through this last week, pushed higher, pushed through 270, which had been a battleground in both directions, took out this intermediate March candle, and have now pushed through the other big downtrend, and we're changing the trend. Now, the one thing I'm going to talk about to you guys is, first of all, RSI. We went from deeply overbought to we bounced twice off of oversold, and look at this now. We are now new high. We're back above this range, the highest RSI rating we've had now since the sell-off back at the end of the first couple days of February. So RSI is moving up. Everything's curling up here. We are extended. Do you guys understand what I mean by we are extended here? Okay. When you look at this chart, the gold line at 268.86 is the 8-day moving average. Indexes and ETFs especially like to stick close to it. When it gets extended, it usually comes back to it or goes sideways and waits for it to catch up. I was hoping yesterday we would get an inside day and consolidate inside Thursday's candle. Does that make sense? We didn't. The algos are on. They pushed us higher all day into the close. And you can see now we are $5 above the 8-day moving average here. That's a lot for the SPY. If you look back here, every time we've gotten similar situations, we've come in, right? Here's your Jan sell-off. Came in. Up here. Got up, reversal candle the next day, came down. You can see how this kind of works that way. Now, that does not mean we're going to sell off. That not mean you should go in all short. What it does mean, though, is that the 8-day needs to catch up, and we may need to go sideways for a few sections or come down a little bit and meet it partially. So you need to be aware of this. And what that really just means is for the next day or so, you need to think before you chase momentum to the upside and take a look at things and see how we digest this big move, right? We'd had 7 up days in a row. 7 green days has led to this here, and we need to pay attention to it. Everybody on board with me there? But very bullish that we were able to take out this trend line. Holding this trend line would be extremely bullish at this point. Holding back and not giving this back would be extremely bullish. Okay, the VIX, what a trend change here as well, right? We were holding this elevated 14 to 25 area for most of these last 3 months, and look at this breakdown we're seeing now. We broke into the 12s. If you guys, I was on TD Ameritrade Network live the other day with Oliver Reddick, and we were talking about the VIX and just amazed that it had gotten into the 12s, and now it's, now we closed down on the lows at 1265, and you can see this just kind of melting off. And the reason this is happening is to think about what's going on in the world, right? We had so much political unrest going in through this period. We had lots of concerns about China of a trade war, right? We had concerns about North Korea. Everything going on with the Trump administration in terms of Stormy Daniels and stuff, all that seems to be calming down, right? Even when we get a little bit of Mueller news like the last couple of days, it hasn't rocked the markets. The markets seem to have just stabilized here, and they're just taking this all now as background noise, and they're not overly as worried about it. So fear is coming down, and this is a good thing. That means options are going to get less expensive again, right? Prices on options are coming down here. Yep, standard settings on the VIX. One thing you do notice is typically when we punch out of it, we revert back into it. Notice this time the Bollinger Band's opening up. You see how it's curling on the bottom? You see that blue line, how it's curling down here? All right, so this is different. We're not punching through it this time. It's curling down. We're trying to ride this down now. I don't know, that one candle there was a weird print, but it stuck, and I saw them, it didn't just come back right away. It took 10 minutes to fully come back. I don't know what's going to happen here. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to try to come down and test this 11 area, but we'll see. Yeah, we did close outside of it, but it's coming down with us. It doesn't require a big reversal here. It wasn't a punch through like we've seen in the past. So it's a little bit different. The Qs, guys. So the Qs have been interesting. When we had the February sell-off, the Qs came back and they pushed into an all-time high in March, right? Where none of the other indexes followed them. Then after some weakness, the Qs have not been leading, right? The Qs have not been the leading sector, but look at this, not far now back from that all-time high up here, and right now, big test. Here is your February high, that first day, that January high before the sell-off, and we're almost back to it. And what's a name that's really helping here, right? If you look at the one name that's really helping us out here, it's Apple. Apple, when that name is strong, boy, it tends to lift the markets with it. You're right, Digby, you got it. When that name is strong, it tends to take the markets with it. And right now, Apple's strong, and this is a big test, so you got to watch this area. It's right about 70-40, 70-50 area. See how the markets handle that on the Qs, see what they do. They are extended as well. The Qs actually gave us a nice little, unfortunately, outside day, but a little bit more inside of a day, a little more day of a rest. That's a nice look. If we can hold that for a session or two and the 8-day catches up, that's exactly what we're looking for in the markets here. Okay, so that's a nice candle. You notice RSI is starting to go up as well there. Oh, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Yep, we're going to go over healthcare. I have one for you there. Yep, and now healthcare. So that's when we're going to talk about rotation. You got it. IWM leading. Been talking about this for a while. The IWM is least affected by the China trade wars, right? Has the least amount of effect on them, what's going on over there. And you can see this has acted stronger through this entire sell-off period, right? Came back, tested new highs, close enough, we'll call that, sold off, and now right here, look at the last two sessions, pounding on that all-time high, but it's extended at the top of the Bollinger Band. But this looks like it wants to go, right? We had a rising dollar, same thing, yep. And what are some other sectors that are in the IWM that's a big player in the IWM that have woken up lately, right? Financials woke up the last week, helped propel it. All those small energy names that are in there have been strong, helping propel it. And now, as you just pointed out, which was a great one, you have healthcare and biotech. You have how many small biotechs in the IWM and the Russell, right? And those healthcare stocks that suddenly start getting it to go. So if those three areas are firing, the IWM is going to scream. So watch this. This has been the one we've been watching here for our leads. It's possible. Melt up is definitely possible. Okay. Any questions? We're going to go into more charts after this, but I wanted to go over those. I always like to go over that. Any questions? So really, when I look at these charts, what I see is a very bullish look to this market, guys. This is what we want. Now we need confirmation. Confirmation comes from a couple of days of sideways action where we don't sell off, the markets hold in, they rotate to other names, and then they start pushing higher. What you want to be, what we don't want to see and what could happen is the fear trade, the pain trade. Do you guys understand what the pain trade is? Have you guys heard that term before? So if you're not familiar with it, the pain trade is where we just keep grinding up on low volume. Melt up's another great word for it, and it doesn't give you good places to enter and get back in. The markets just keep grinding higher, and it's on low volume, and we've had very low volume in the markets the last week, and it's very difficult to get back in to get in positions. It's one of the hardest things to chase as a trader. As a trader is what we do. We like to buy a little weakness and support, and then sell as we're going up and take profits and then ride it up a little bit, right? Not trying to buy as we go higher and higher. So, the one thing that is interesting too is a lot of these funds, I'm going to tell you, are extremely underinvested right here. They've been selling this whole time. They were not buying into this here. So there could start to see some FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Options market will pick up on that because the number one way of funds are going to make up for being underinvested is they're going to play with options, to play with leverage to make up for the fact that they don't have the necessary equity positions in size. So keep an eye on that. These are some things that should start to come to light this week. These are things to start looking for. Okay. So let's go into some institutional flow of notes, some things that I think you might find interesting and to keep an eye on here. First off, EA. This is a strange one. So when we talk about flow, and I'm going to talk about an education class I'm doing in a little bit, we talk about different types and different types of bets. And it's a bet. So what they're hitting here? They're hitting the June 160 calls, and I got them circled down there. Over the course of that day, they bought over 4,500 of them between, I think, about 16 and 21 cents they paid up to. And they were small sweepers, and they were coming in. Some were blocks, but some were small. They were coming in on the bid. I'm sorry, on the ask, not on the bid. And I kept looking at them because they kept coming for them. Look where EA is here. They started hitting this around 130, right? That's a $30 move in 2 months. What do you think they're looking for, guys? Buyout. You nailed it, AS. And who's been the rumored name, if you guys pay attention? What name has been rumored to be sniffing around Electronic Arts? Microsoft. There's been a couple rumors over the last 4 or 5 months with Microsoft involving them. It'd be an interesting purchase for them. So this is something you should put on your radar. It pulled back in a little bit on yesterday, giving a better entrance. This is not something you go in big. They're cheap options. I would treat this as a lotto type trade. Whatever you buy, be willing to lose. Does that make sense? Saying if this goes to zero, I'm okay with it. I'm 100% okay with it. In other words, I'm going to throw this out there as if this hits, it's going to pay huge, and if it doesn't, it goes to zero. I'm okay with that. So if your lotto price is $100, go out there and buy 5 or so of them, or 6. Oh, that was their earnings here. That big gap up, that was their earnings. They were good. Take-Two was good. I think Activision was good. The sector's been very good. Great earnings in the sector. Their earnings are over. Their earnings took place a couple days ago, 3 days ago. That was the gap up. Yep, Arthur, it's right, Xbox. So if you like this play, cheap. Don't throw big money at it, right? You don't go out there and you don't go betting the farm on this. If you're willing to throw away $100, throw away $100. If you're willing to throw away more than that, I don't know the size of your accounts. I can't tell you how to do it. I can tell you manage it as throw away money. Manage it as money you would spend going out to a nice restaurant for a night. Make sense? Yep. So take a look at that one. I thought that was interesting. I thought you guys might like that one. Morgan Stanley. What about further options out in September and July? You can try that, Arthur, but that's where they're buying. So they're looking for the news soon, and they're going cheap. They're looking for a cheap payday. You can go out further in time if you want. Absolutely. But that's where they were playing. Morgan Stanley. So Morgan Stanley is one of the banks that everybody always kind of forgets about, but they're one of the stronger banks. They've been really strong. If you look through this period compared to the other banks, they've been stronger. They're doing great. Nice trade, Elizabeth. And not yesterday, Thursday, they bought the July 5750 calls. Now, I like that order, 315,000 of them. I posted the open interest changes I took from yesterday, and they all stuck. You see the 4,200 of them stuck. I wouldn't chase right off the bat. Banks like to stick to the 8-day. You see how Morgan Stanley's at the top of the Bollinger Band here and extended off the 8-day? That said, it's at a resistance level. It's cleared all the moving averages. Any dips, I would look at those if you like it. Yep. So any dips here, I would look at those, and I would take a look at those if you like the banks. This is one of those sneaky banks that they come for. When they come like this, they're usually right. So something to keep on. Elizabeth, when we're done with the presentation, I'm going to go over charts, and we'll go over Micron then. So just ask me. I'll let you know when we're ready. Okay, so keep an eye on Morgan Stanley. MGM. So everybody here that was in my service today, we played MGM. We had a nice trade on MGM in here. So I want to go over this with you, show you something. So first off, earnings were really bad in this name, right? And that big red down arrow on the gap on the earnings symbol, right? They started coming in. You see the open interest out there and buying those August calls, the 33s, the 32s, the 35s. They were buying them hand over fist that day, okay? But it was bad earnings and it required thinking. So the second day, I finally bought some, not a full position, and started buying into it a little bit as the stock started to consolidate. And then you can see they came in and they started buying tons of weeklies this week, all right? And it gave us a nice trade. Now, we're all out. I believe we're all out. I'm out. We went out into this resistance of the gap, and then we got yesterday's big sell-off. So we got out on Thursday on this one. But I'm pulling this back up here because I keep an eye on this because these players didn't sell. So watch to see if it holds the low and we get a reversal candle, and maybe I'll go back into some of those, right? You can see we sold them up around 260. They're back down over a buck off, almost a buck off of where we bought them on those August 33s. Keep an eye on this. I'm telling you to keep an eye on it because this could be a nice play. If they keep coming back to casinos, right, they come back, maybe they'll come back into this name. But wait for some type of reversal candle, kind of like we had here, some type of tail reversal candle. Don't just chase this on the way down. Find support. So put your eyes on it. Keep an eye on that one. All right. This name I love. This is AbbVie. Based upon what we're just talking about, healthcare, right? I'm in the June 115s. They've been constant buying in this for the last 2 weeks. Here's some of the flow. You can see Yesterday, look at the volume in the June 115 and 120 strikes. I'll obviously be testing open interest on that, checking open interest on Monday. Look at this gap, right? The gap starts at 104.50. It goes up to a 111 to 112. That's a nice size gap on this name. You look at this curl, came up to it, came around, riding the 8-day, right up into it, and now looks like it's ready to go. Yep, all of the thing popped. Look at the buying that came into this yesterday and the day before. They've been coming into this name. It has a nice big buyback under it now. This is a nice name to try for a gap fill. Don't lose track of it. I like the June 115s. They're cheap. They're not expensive, and they'll pay handsomely if this thing goes to fill the gap. I got one bearish one for you that's been kind of a little bit weird. So back into the sell-off that we had, they started loading up on these January 50 puts in Tesla. And ever since then, they've been adding like mad. I mean, these started like at 5,000. We're up to 54,000, almost 55,000 in open interest. Another 1,200 of them here came in on Friday. This is a doom and gloom bet for Tesla. This is somebody who thinks this name is going to get destroyed. It does not have to go to 50 for this trade to work. I mean, this thing drops 50 bucks, these things will pop more than double, I bet you. So if you like a cheap bearish bet on Tesla, or you want to hedge, just keep an eye on something like that. It's something different. You don't see buying like this very often. They've been coming in on the ask. Most of them is swept. This is what this guy who's coming in. You know, they're coming in that way. Yeah, Musk went long on Looney on their conference calls, right? So anyway, I wanted to give you something a little bit different here, guys. Just take a look at it. Again, this is more of a lotto trade. You don't play this big. But if you want to buy a couple to see what happens, it's something interesting. If Tesla can't hit their numbers, I think it's going to eventually be in trouble. And they're going to have to do a secondary. Okay, so those are what I have for you guys for flow. So I want to talk to you quickly about a learning opportunity. I have a new educational offering I'm doing. I'm going to present it here to you guys. So I'm doing a special course using technicals and option flow to trade. And the reason I'm doing this is unusual option flow is a great tool. You guys know I follow the option flow. You know I use it in my trading all the time, be it looking for unusual flow or using it for momentum trades or determining when to get in and out of positions. But just using flow alone, these guys are often very early and they're often wrong, right? And sometimes it's often misidentified as selling or closing. Sometimes when it comes in mid-market and there's a lot of open interest there, it can be very hard to tell exactly what these guys are doing with those options. You have to learn how to identify it and look at it and learn little secrets on to try to tell what's really going on. The stock can often give you a clue at that point. So technical analysis adds another indicator to us, another confirmation of whether we should try something. It tells us whether this is a good spot or maybe a place we should wait and see what happens. Or if we're in a position watching what the flow looks like or seeing it come in and close a position, maybe it's time for us to take our profits and get out there as well. So this is an example of a great setup that we played the last couple of weeks. It was PayPal. We had the Amazon news that came out that Amazon was going to be offering a discount to its merchants to use their fulfillment system over other vendors. And you see the volume on PayPal got wrecked on that day. But as they were coming down, we saw massive amounts of call buying, October 275 specifically, massive buying. And even though the sell-off was fierce, we could see PayPal was coming into strong support, was coming into the 200-day. And on the second day, we kept watching, and as they kept coming back for a lot of these October calls, and then they started adding some other calls around it. So that got us into the trade, saying this is a good support, this is a good area, the 200-day is a good place to take it. We had a reversal candle there out of the Bollinger Band saying this is a good play to do that. And so once we got long, we stayed with the trade. We watched it get through the 8-day, and then technicals. When it broke 75, it took out that down candle, the top of it. That told us to stay with it, and I rode it up until about 78. I got out as we came into the 50-day moving average. Did I leave some on the table? Absolutely. Was it a huge trade? It was a great trade, a beautiful trade, and that's how we use option flows and technicals to identify a good setup, get in it, stay with it, and start telling us what to get out. I started looking to get out of here around the 50-day. How can you see option flow if we cannot watch the daily flow? Yeah, James, I have a service that you can subscribe to. It's $25 for the first month. I call all, and $100 their month thereafter. It calls all the option flow out throughout the day. You see everything going on real time as it's coming in, along with news. I throw charts up and technicals and all that. So, or there's other people out there you can follow that do the same thing, or you can buy software out there that does it for you. Okay, so PayPal is an example of a great chart, a great setup using technicals and option flow. I want to bring MGM back up here because MGM is an example of one not to take. So we had bad earnings, right? And bad earnings led to late afternoon buying in the August calls that I showed you guys before. And to me, when you have a bad event like that on earnings, and the stock was kind of in limbo, had broken a lot of support here, right? We broke this big range in the 200-day. I said, okay, let's take our, let's wait. So we watched it for a day, and then we got in. We got in not quite in the lows, but we got in, I think, on day 3 because they kept coming for it. And we got a little red, and then the options kind of waffled around here, and we stayed with it and watching it. And then they kept buying it and buying it and buying it. And as they started coming in, as they started buying the 8-day, we added to it, and we had a beautiful, nice 2-day trade where we sold up at the gap. Why the gap? Because we figured the gap would be resistance 1, an area where if they would want to hold it and maybe buy it back. And we were right. So we used the option flow, the technicals to get in and to get out of the trade. But the technicals here told us not to buy the first day. Buying day 1, you were going to be buying and probably have to go lower at that point. I am in a trade room. I'm in the Alpha Shark trade room. I moderate there for about 2 hours a day. Okay, so that's an example of a setup to watch. So using technicals and option flow to trade. So in this course, we're going to go over identifying if the stock is overbought or oversold, extended, right? Looking for different things at a stock before you go buying the options at that point. Are we at support or resistance? When you see option guys come in, when the stock is at support, that's a great setup. When they're coming in at resistance, sometimes it's not as good, right? Sometimes not as good there. Support's usually better. How is the stock reacting to the option flows? Option, the biggest clue of whether it's going on with it. If we're not sure whether the options are bought or sold or what they did with them, what the stock's doing, how it's reacting, what implied volatility do, I'm going to teach you how to look at these things, and you can see the changes that go on there to give us a clue of what the option flow really means. Okay, we'll talk about the types of options, the buys, the different types of buys we see, or the different types of sells, and what to look for in repeat action to find out what we want and what we're looking for. We're going to go over stop losses on usual option activity, where to put them, how to identify where to start taking profits and where to leave your runners and put at that point, and how to roll them out. And then events, how to play them with unusual option flow for a possible run up into them. So I have a couple little trades we can go over for that. This will work both for swing traders, scalp traders. We'll show you all different types of setups there. So when it comes to this class is a 2-hour course. It's going to be offered on Saturday, June 1st, okay, from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. You can get it at alphashark.com/using technicals. I'm going to put this all out to you guys so you all will have it. Or not. Okay. Also, you're going to get a follow-up mentoring session Saturday, June 16th from 1 to 1:30. So you're going to get 2.5 hours of teaching for $99. I'm going to go over all this with you, technical setups, option flow, how to put them together to better increase your odds of having successful trades. And that's what it's about. If you guys who are in my room and follow me, I have a very high rate of wins because I'm very particular about what I look for, and I don't just chase option flow all over the place. All right, so let's get to some of your questions here. Does anyone trade the SPY options daily or weekly? I do sometimes. Some people in the room do there. It's alphashark.com. There's a link there. You can go sign up there. Bars, Andrew just uses unusual option flow. I actually put together, analyze the flow, and look at the technicals. So we trade very differently. He just likes to look for option flow that stands out because it's in different ways. I look at option flow that's unusual because of the way they're buying it, how they're coming in and buying it, and what the technicals look like at the same time. So I take a more a larger view, a more global view of everything instead of just the flow. You're welcome. So I hope you guys all sign up. Join me for that 2.5 hours for 99 bucks. I think you'll find it more than worth your while. Yep, you can do this without. Can all this kind of flow trading be done without subscribing to the unusual service? You can use TOS. It's not as easy. TOS does have options, but you have to create it in a way that you can follow and track the flow. It's not that easy to use in TOS. TOS's option scanner is okay. It's not really that good. Any questions before we move on to your charts here for the last 20 minutes? I will record it and send it out to people who watched it, Bernard. Yes. People who subscribed, it will be recorded. This recording is recorded as well. Sure. You're welcome. Can I explain, Peter, buying on the ask or on the bid? Sure. If somebody's buying on the ask, they're paying the full cost of the option. If somebody's buying on the bid, that means they're likely selling, right? Because they're getting the lower rate. They're getting the lower rate. They're probably closing out or selling to work. Link isn't working. It was working a second ago. Okay. Thanks, Arthur. Let me give this one to you guys. There you go. That should work now. You guys should be all set. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, guys. So as you guys know, I got 20 minutes left with you. And I'd like to spend some time going over charts with you because I know you guys always want to look at. So start typing your charts in there. We'll start going over them and go from there. I know we had a request already from Micron, so I want to go to that one first, and we'll start from there. Deal? Micron. So Micron went from looking like, it was going to fall apart here, and I was looking for a retest of 43, and now we've had this beautiful move back up into the 50-day with a couple gaps in here at this point. NVIDIA earnings were not fabulous at this point. They were good. Need to watch this whole sector here. It's also extended. See how far the 8-day is below here? So right now the 8-day is down at 50. It's got a big move down. So I would watch to see how it handles the gap up from Thursday and see how it goes from there. If it holds this gap and the 8-day comes up, I'd look for continuation up towards 54. And then once it gets through 54, it looks like it can grind back up towards those highs at 63. But watch the sector. The sector could be prone to some weakness here. Excuse me, on Micron. MYL. So let's start off with this, and then we'll come to MYL, okay? Let's go to the IBB. IBB, Labu, XBI, they're all different types of ETFs that track the biotech space. IBB woke up in a major way right up to the 50-day. You see this powerful candle. Look at the volume confirming it, right? So when I look at what happened on Friday, we're going to keep an eye on this sector. This is high on my list for Monday. The one thing that I was bothered by is that there wasn't a lot of buying into names after the Trump speech. And I thought you would see some more than that. So MYL has been one of the beaten up names. It's had a nice V bounce off this low, right? You can see this here, came in, went down to 35, now back at the 200-day. For it to continue to going, it's at resistance. You have the 200-day, you have resistance here, right? You can see this area has been resistance and support through this area. So it has to clear here to keep going. If it can clear through here, it really doesn't have a lot of resistance to the 50-day up around 40 bucks. So see how it handles this, and then I would keep my eye on that, Joe, okay? But it's got to get through here. It's got to clear above it. SPY, we kind of went over that already today, but we'll go back at it real quick. Okay, SPY, here's your break of that downtrend, right? You had a wedge, and let's go to the SPX first. Let's do the SPX instead. I want to show you this. We've broken that wedge on the SPX here to the upside. To me, this is bullish. This looks like we want to get continuation. We're just extended. There is a small gap from 248 up here. You guys can see there's a very small gap up here from 2740 to 2750 on the SPX. So when I look at that, I would think once the SPY consolidates, 2750 or 275 is your next area to look for. Okay, see how it handles this little bit of extension here, but then 275 would be the next area, and then if we start pushing through that, then eventually 280. All right, 270 would be my line in the sand, by the way. If we cannot hold 270 on any weakness, I would be worried. Apple, Big Mama. God, I love how the markets perform when Apple's trading well, right? We have $100 billion buyback under Apple now. That is now, I don't even think they've started that program yet. It's about to start. So when I look at Apple here, a couple of things. One, look at this move here off earnings. We are extended. We have run a ton. We went ex-dividend yesterday. RSI is getting heated. We could really just use a little bit of digestion here, okay? Anything that digests and holds this 184 area would be good. Would be a nice area to try to go back in. If we can try to hold up here, the 8 days going to come up. Look how far the 21 day is behind it. These just need to play some catch up. 182 would be another great spot to look because that's roughly where we broke out from, right, as we ran to our new all-time highs. So these are things I look at. I would not be looking to chase it up here other than a scalp. If you're a quick scalp trader, yes, but if you're a swing trader or you're looking stuff, I would careful chasing this up in this direction. You could use a couple days off. We'll see what it does. EWZ, is that Brazil? I think there was some big buying in Brazil this week. I can't type. Yeah, Brazil. In fact, I know there was some big buying in Brazil this week. Hang tight. Yeah, 3 days ago, and they hit it more than once. The May 25th 42 calls, 350K. Remember they hit it a couple times there. This is off my private Twitter feed where I keep stuff, so you can see it there. So they came buying for it. I don't usually play this one, to be honest with you. This is not an area I usually look at. What I would tell you here is you have a downtrend roughly here, right? Quick draw. I do not like the fact that we came to the 200 and the 21 day that are together here. We had a big move up and we have lost them both and lost the 8 day, and we're in this gap. So now you have to see, does it want to fill this open gap down to 40.50 here at this point? Not the type of action you want to see. This thing trades sloppy and choppy. If you like it, this is something you'll long term with. I don't really know what the play here is on Brazil at this point. Booking. Did they report this week yet? They reported, right? Yeah, they reported. They missed. Wasn't enough. I haven't traded this stock in a while now, to be honest with you, because it's just the options have gotten too wide and too loose. Here's your support. You want it to hold this gap. Okay? That's your gap you're looking to hold. So right now, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere's land. He had a big move down. It is out of the Bollinger Band, came back up, but notice it didn't hold it. Look at the sell-off into the close. I would give this another couple of days to see what it can do. If it goes lower, I would say that this area, this 2000 is in play. That would be your first big support area. Maybe some support around 2020, even up towards, maybe even right here, 2030 area, okay? See how it handles those areas on the way down. Obviously, you have a gap above it now at 2100, so you want to keep an eye on it. Best way to play for gaps like that is to try to buy off support and play it up to that with a runner to go into the gap. Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs has been the wicked stepchild, guys, of the banks. They have not loved this name. It kindly woke up, but when you look at Goldman Sachs, so let's just do a little bit of stuff here. I want to show you something. We'll come back to Goldman Sachs, I promise. I want to give you some comparisons. Look at the XL. Okay, I have my hands in the wrong spot on my keyboard. My apologies. Look at the XLF, right? Above the 200-day, above all but the 100-day moving average here now, right? In this area. Look at a name like JP Morgan, which is best in breed. Above all the moving averages, getting not too far back from all-time highs here. Citigroup, which has been, a name they like, they come after, right? All about the 100-day, and then you look at GS. All right, and you look at GS, and it's not even above the 200-day, and it's been stopped dead at the 200-day the last two sessions. I am not really looking at this name anymore, Don. I used to play this name a lot. It's just not acting right. The other names act better, and they're playing better in the banking space. So I would just be careful. It's also got a lot of resistance here. You see all these candles popping up around this 244, 245 area. That said, if it can bust through the 200-day and get going, it really has room to run up to the 50-day at 252. Okay? So see how it reacts, see how it handles it. EXOM. Why don't I remember that name? Is that Exxon Mobil you trying to say? Okay, thank you. I'm like, I don't know that name. There we go. So Exxon Mobil has seen some flow the last week. You can see some of the flow I picked up on the last week here, pointing it out to you guys. You can see what it looks like. Not huge. Most of it further out in time. Most of it was out in October or January. So this stock woke up. I didn't play this one. It had a beautiful move here, and it's extended here. So I would not be looking here to enter it. It's into resistance, right? Your resistance right here, where it came to that candle at 82. It's way off the 8-day. See how it handles any pullbacks here and see if they come after it, and that's what name I would look at again. It's been a laggard in oil, so something to keep an eye on. Rig is a name I'm still in. Rig is a name I bought common. I've owned it for a while. Going into earnings, I sold calls against it, bought them back at a 65% discount, and took them off, and now the stock's up here at this area of 1340. Little inside day, just extended, looks great. What I would say here on rig is on the weekly chart, right? You can see the 200 days coming in here. It's got room up towards 16. At that point, it's going to run into a big wall. So see how it does going into there. But it's going to may take a time. May need a little while to get going there. Well, we got about 10 minutes. So who else? I'll try to do a couple for each of you. Let's do spot. Recent IPO, Spot has seen some call buying. Okay, not a name that usually catches it. There was a recard that came in onto the May 172.50s. That was on 2 days ago. This thing looks okay. I don't usually play new issues all that much, but for me, if it starts breaking above 160, I would try it, right? 160, then 166, 165, say, and then it can really start getting going there. If you like, so I wouldn't buy rig here at this point, Laxmi, but if you want to, I would look into the August calls on a pullback of maybe the 14s or 15s. GS, we'll call that one. Illum, that's not a name I've heard in a while. Why is What is wrong with stock charts today? I keep trying to go back. It's just giving me fits. Beautiful move here. Um, all-time highs, I think, on this one. Broke out. If you're with it, trim and trail. I wouldn't be initiating up here. You're getting an RSI overbought. 8 days way below it here. You know, if you're with it, I would trim and trail. If not, I would look for other names. On any dips, as long as it held this 256 area, I'd like it there to try it. NVIDIA. So NVIDIA earnings were good, but not good enough, right? We've heard that a lot today, this earnings season in the chip makers. Now, if these earnings had happened down here when it was at 215, I bet you this thing would have run. But because it had run so much, right? We ran from 215, we even say 210, to 260 into about 3 weeks into earnings at a new all-time high. So, you know, it gapped down, pushed back up, and it closed weak. See how it handles the 8-day. See how it handles in. There was no big buying into it on yesterday. I want to see how the semis react here. This is a good area. If it can hold the previous highs, it's going to be good. I do think ultimately, somehow, some way, NVIDIA finds 300 before the end of the year. I just don't know how it gets there. They are the best in breed. What they're doing with machine learning and artificial intelligence and everything is better than anybody out there. It's not a story about their graphics cards anymore. So I love the name. I'd be looking to buy any weakness on this one. See how it handles that area. Microsoft. Right, we love when names get to, by the way, all-time highs because they're blue skies, there's no resistance. You're very welcome for that one. Microsoft, they've been buying the June 100s nonstop on this thing, May 100s. Nice move up here with a great dip buy earlier this week. It's at resistance, so you want to be a little careful playing for the breakout, but it sure looks good. If the markets don't sell, this is a name they can rotate into. It hasn't moved yet. So this is a name I like. It's got to get above this area now, right? 97, let's call it 98. Breaks 98 and she could be off to the races. Make sure she confirms it. If it pull back to the 8-day, I'd try it off of that. Facebook. Facebook yesterday, look at this move yesterday, blowing through here. Power yesterday when nobody else had it. I got stopped out of my June options 2 days ago on a pull, and I was really upset about it because I just shouldn't have, and I put my stop too tight. And so I didn't lose money. I made a couple bucks, but I didn't make the money I should have made on. I had my June 190 calls. And so I should have chased it, and I didn't. I don't have a position here right now. It's extended. I would look for a pull in to buy it. There's been nonstop call buying. This is a great example of knowing when not to chase. If you were following the flow on this on Friday late, and you saw them constantly sweeping this thing with momentum sweepers, right? Suicides, 190s, right? Coming in. All this stuff, that was a topping signal. They were getting out. So keep an eye on that. Any weakness on Facebook, I think, is a buying opportunity at this point. The whole thing going on with Zuckerberg is gone. They have a huge now $9 billion buyback. I love the name. I like how that's acting at this point. Baba yesterday gave us a reversal candle, guys, on Thursday, and then some follow through. I know this because I was looking to play it and I didn't take it. So on Thursday, you see we got a reversal hammer down. We got follow through yesterday. Chart still looks fine. They caught a lot of people playing for a break of 200. You do have a small gap fill to be had up here, right? You can see it goes to about 203 or even up to 205. If it reconnects with the 8-day, I'd give it a shot. Doesn't look horrible, may have a little bit more weakness ahead of it, but BABA looks fine up here as long as it holds this area. The SLOB, I love SLOB and J. I haven't touched it in a bit. This one's been a laggard in the energy space. Usually it's a leader, so keep an eye on this one because if it can get going above here, it's got room to run. As long as energy holds up, I think that can. Suicides means they're buying it with only a couple hours left, Joe. So for me, when I see somebody who comes in and buys calls on something with like an hour to go or 2 hours to go before they expire, that's a suicide sweeper. It's all or nothing. So if you're going to play it, realize that you're playing with options that have like a couple hours of life left on them. Just make sure you understand what it is, right? These guys are throwing money. It's either going to work or they're going to go to zero. What do we got? We got literally 3 minutes here. Okay, let's take a quick look at Win. We had a great win on Win this week. They've been big call buying into the September 195s of the last 2 weeks. We jumped on some of those. They were pricey, but they paid huge. Got out on this day, and we had the pull in. We'll see how it handles this area. I may go back in now that down here. But, you know, it got up, it retested this all-time high area and pulled back from it. So we'll see how it plays out here. Where should you look to buy on Schlumberger? Oh, come on. Why are you being so difficult today? Man, I don't know what they're doing. They must be doing updates behind the scenes. If you can get a pullback to the 8-day, I would love it. I'm just not 100% sure you will. If the oil remains strong, you may not. So you're gonna have to kind of put a feel on this one and see how it's reacting. Does that make sense? If you can get a pullback to the 8-day, that would be great. I just don't know that it's going to give it to you here. We'll have to see. All right, last one we're going to do is Netflix, guys. And then I'm going to wish everybody a happy Mother's Day and a great weekend to everybody. And thanks for joining me this morning. Netflix, this thing has been consolidating for a long time now. It does not have a lot of resistance up to 238, 239, which is all-time highs. I thought it was going to try to go this week. It did not. It got tired. Here's your dip to the 8-day. If the markets remain strong, this is a name they could rotate into and play with here, right? Because it hasn't run. So if they decide they're not going to play with Apple here or not going to play with Facebook here, this is a name they can go play with. So keep an eye on that one. So again, everybody, I want to thank you very much all for joining me on this Saturday morning. I know Saturday mornings are rough. I'm going to be doing that course. I hope you guys join me. I'm going to resend it to you all for $99, 2.5 hours. I think that's a great deal. Lots of learning in there. I just put it out there for you. You should have gotten it, Bob. And thank you all for joining me. I'm going to do another webinar, I think, on the 29th of Tuesday. And I wish you guys all the best. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. The markets will be here Monday. Go out, enjoy. To you guys who are moms out there, happy Mother's Day. Take care.